All right, so this is going to be a reading for Sagittarius. And for the Sagittarius that I'm reading for today, I'm seeing that your heart is asking a very big, deep question. And it's a question about what is worth your energy and what's worth the investment of this beautiful, full heart that you have. And I see many of you maybe kind of asking yourself, is this the right place to put my heart? Are the things that I'm investing in serving my most loving self as much as it needs to be served? And I really see you pondering this pretty deeply and thinking, where do I put these energies? And kind of staying still until you find the right opportunities, because I do see you getting some offers for love and care and exchange that kind of fall short of the bigness of your heart and your love that you have to offer. So things that can't quite reciprocate the magnitude of love energy that you're giving out. And so many of you who are listening today may have had experiences where you felt like you loved more in relationships, or you were the more giving friend, or you always showed up for people and they didn't show up for you back, or if they did, it wasn't with the same gusto, it wasn't with the same um, prioritization. And I see you kind of looking back at these connections that you've had that haven't quite worked out and realizing, like, oh, like that wasn't it, that wasn't it, that wasn't it, and moving on from them. And I see you trying to kind of heal and move forward on your own, and actually kind of being like, if I have to be by myself, that might be best for the time being. Like, it's better to be alone for right now than to give to connections that aren't giving back to me. But at the same time, you do have this really beautiful, big, expansive heart space. And so there's a part of you that maybe longs for connection or feels lonely in doing this. And there may be a part of you that's actually kind of holding on to partnerships that might not be serving you so well because you're scared of being alone. And there's something here about trusting in divine timing, and then also trusting that it's okay if you are quote unquote alone on different parts of your journey, because in those times you're actually recollecting your energy within yourself so that when it's time to give it back out, you're more centered, and you also have that decision making capacity of, who's actually worthy of this love that I have to give. So very deep sort of spiritual shifts that you're moving through, and like questions that you're asking yourself. And I'm going to dive deeper into this reading in a moment, Sagittarius. But before I do, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for receiving this reading. If you would like a personal reading, I do offer them. You can email me down below in the description box. And if you'd like to lend your energy to the channel in such a way that helps me manifest messages that resonate more deeply for you, you can like and subscribe. But let's dive in here, Sagittarius, and see what's going on for you more specifically. So your oracle cards for today are sharing, new vision, and moment to moment. So like I said, this element of reciprocity in relationships really comes through with the oracle card sharing. There's a give and take there of wanting to share your bounty, and then also have bounty be shared with you, and have that give and take relationship. And it's almost like you're kind of recognizing that your higher self may come out through your heart space, or that's the part of yourself that you really want to step into. And with new vision, Spirit's asking you to really consider what it is that you want for your life and what it is that you want for your relationships. Because when we start to manifest, it really starts in the visions and the images that we create for ourselves. And so when you think about relationships, what kinds of relationships do you want to have? Like when we manifest, it's important not to be like, oh, I want to be with this specific person in this specific city, but to more focus on the feeling that we want to manifest. What do your ideal relationships feel like? And is that different from the relationships that you're currently in? I'm kind of focusing on that as sort of, I'm seeing like a North Star or a guiding light kind of off in the distance that you end up following, and allowing that vision for what a truly reciprocal, loving relationship would be like for you. And it doesn't have to be romantic either. This can be friendships, they can be, work related relationships, but try to envision what these connections that would feel truly reciprocal and nourishing would look like for you. And then moment to moment is about living in the moment, being present, taking things one step at a time, and also understanding that relationships are built through incremental steps. So you can find an amazing person who you feel like is wanting to give to you the way you're ready to give to them, and you can have this huge vision behind it, but then spirit wants to remind you to break it down into smaller steps and actually understand that every moment of your relationships are sacred moments. Even if you can't see how they fit into the larger picture, try to think of each moment in a relationship as one step in a staircase that builds and builds into this beautiful, like, spiraling staircase that actually ultimately ends up being the experience of that relationship, right? So really beautiful messages for you here today. Let's look at what you've been dealing with in the recent past. You've definitely been having some realizations about your heart space, some realizations about what it is that you deserve, and I see you kind of sitting still for a second to reflect. There's a lot of thinking here. And sometimes it's grounded and sometimes it's connected to, you know, those moments in the staircase and looking at them one by one. And then other times you might feel really trapped and you might feel really anxious. And I see you kind of taking a step back to be still and to look into your heart and to actually go through, what do I think of this situation from a practical perspective? What do I make of it? And then, what is it bringing up for me? How is it making me feel? And then emotionally, what is my heart telling me about this? And there could be this feeling as you stay still for a second where you realize, oh, like the things that I've experienced in some of my relationships, again, they don't quite match up to what I'm bringing to those relationships. And there could almost be this feeling sometimes of feeling trapped in those relationships or feeling like you got yourself into a connection that gives you something, but it just doesn't quite show up the way that would really make you feel good and would make you feel like, yeah, this is reciprocal. There's something also here about an age gap or a maturity gap. So even if you're around people who are your same age or older than you, there could be this feeling of like you being a little bit more emotionally developed and these people not quite being able to match what you bring to the table in some way, or maybe you just feel like you're the mama hen and you're always taking care of other people, but are they really able to take care of you? So kind of a lot of things swirling around in there for you. You're also showing me that you realized all of a sudden like you need to slow down and be careful with your heart. There could have been this feeling of like rushing into things in the past and then kind of reflecting and healing and taking time, and then over time kind of realizing, oh, I need to be more careful with my heart space, or I can't just rush towards people. Or maybe there were relationships that got really fiery that felt like they became really heightened all of a sudden, and then over time things kind of cooled down and you realize, oh, they're not quite the safe space for my heart that I thought that they were. And then you're showing up in this reading, Sagittarius, as the Queen of Cups, which is a very soft, loving, feminine energy. It's like the softest heart space, but also, the most loving and mature heart space as well. Wow, you're showing me a real desire for change. It's funny because you come through as very open and loving, but then also firm and knowing what you want and knowing that you need a change and realizing that what you've been accepting needs to shift into something else. And I see this being connected to your environment in some way. Many of you might be moving or changing homes, or maybe you did move or you did change homes, and part of it had to do with what it was that you were receiving emotionally from other people. And so, I don't know, some of you are going to be currently making this change, and others of you made the change in the past to switch up the energy. And it's almost like your heart space became so I don't want to say loud, but like it became the center of the space, and it was like I can't look away from what my heart is showing me. I need to move forward towards more stable ground in some way. So that's going to resonate differently for different people, but that's really what I'm seeing so far. And then let's take a look at your current energy, Sagittarius. I see you reflecting on what it was that you received emotionally and reflecting on the ways that maybe it didn't nourish you, or, realizing that there was something confusing there. And I think that if something feels really confusing, it like over time and it just makes you confused, that's not really love. And I see you kind of realizing that and realizing like, okay, I have to take my heart and take it elsewhere. And even though you moved probably physically at some point, or you made some drastic change in the recent past, there may have been a part of you that was still holding on to these connections. And I see you kind of moving on in a different sense now, of being like, okay, even just within myself, I need to move forward more. Let's take a look. Yeah, you were like, if this is exhausting me, if this is draining me, then I need to kind of end it. And it looks like it's multiple relationships, or maybe not even multiple people, but just lots of different energies in your life that you may have felt like were really draining for you. And you kind of put a definitive sort of end to those things, or said, you know what, have fun over there, I'm going over here. Let's keep going here. Then you kind of show me, was I too firm there? When I shut those energies off, when I blocked those energies, was that too much? Was it too over the top? Am I being too closed off? That kind of thing. And there could have been a moment after you cut out certain energies, or after you just left certain energies behind, of, does this really have to end? Maybe it's not that big of a deal. But that feeling of going back and forth actually comes through as kind of deceptive, and from that more, mentally confused place, because it seems like you know exactly what you needed to do and you did it. And so if you're listening to this and you're questioning decisions that you made, I want you to know that if it felt right in the moment, you did the best you could and you made the right decision. And if you had to end something or close yourself off to an energy, it's because in that moment you felt like that's what you needed to do. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing some type of confusion in some relationships, or some overwhelm there. And it's looking like that really needed to leave your life, or just not be as present, because it was really weighing you down in some way. Yeah, there was some energy that you were supporting for a long time that ultimately just wasn't showing up again with the consistency and the care and the intention that you were showing up for in that relationship. And I'm seeing that after a while you were like, yeah, I have to leave that phase of my life behind. Like, I can't keep supporting someone or something that's not supporting me. And it could have felt good for a while, like, especially being in connection with these other energies. Like, there's definitely something there that appealed to you at some point, but I am seeing over time you were like, I can't give to this anymore, so I have to move forward. In the near future, I really see you healing. I see you kind of recognizing that you might be holding on to certain connections, certain things from the past, that you knew that you needed to let go of, or you kind of know are in the past. And these could have been things that, when you look at them from the place where you're currently standing, it's like you don't see them super clearly. And your higher self kind of knew you needed to leave these relationships behind, or these energies behind. And you're kind of showing me like an understanding of your role in things as well, and just understanding possibly that the whole dynamic had to be left behind in some way. But then at the same time, I see you maybe going over it over and over again in your head, or holding on to it in some spiritual sense, where you're actually meant to keep going on your path, but you may be a little focused on what happened in the past, or something about these energies that you're holding on to a little bit. Yeah, you just keep showing me like you could be moving forward, you could be, growing and expanding and all of these things, but you're kind of held back from actually taking that step forward, both in yourself and externally in your life, because you're still holding on to something here. And that's something that you're doing. Like, it's not other people holding on to your energy, it's not you being forced to hold on to these energies. It's something within your healing process that you have to let go of, that comes through as being very hard to let go of. And it's not even like, I don't see the devil card here. It's not a toxic energy. It's not like you're locked into this energy. It's just like where you are in your healing process. The fact is, you just haven't fully let go of this yet. And that's going to be part of your spiritual journey for the foreseeable future. And if there are those of you who are listening out there and you're like, well, I moved out of the house, I decided to stop giving to this person, like, what more do I have to do? If you're kind of in that sort of boat, it's about going within, and it's about what is it within you that you're holding on to. Are you holding on to the memories? Are you holding on to the potential of these people? Are you holding on to the idea of them? Are you holding on to hope that one day they'll change, or that one day you'll get back together, or something like that? Like, there's something within you that needs to be mended and healed there, so that you can fully wrap this up within yourself and within your energy and move forward. And the way that you go about doing that is really going to be different for every person. And it's really going to depend on how you approach this process. But I'm seeing that that could be very present for you. So let's get 3 cards of advice from the universe, and then we'll close out the reading. From where you're standing, you're showing me that it's very difficult to truly move forward from this. There have been a lot of blockages, there have been a lot of hurdles, and I really want to commend you, Sagittarius, for moving on from these things that weren't worth your energy, because a lot of people don't move on from those things ever. They just stay in toxic situations, or they stay receiving less than they deserve because it's comfortable, or it's what they're used to, or it's just difficult. And you're showing me that you really have gone through a lot on your healing process and in your life to move to better horizons. And you may still be in that process. You may still be going through difficult things. And it just, at the end of the day, even once you say you've moved out or whatever in this analogy, and you've gotten your own apartment, and you're setting it up and it looks beautiful and it feels great, there's still going to be parts of you that are struggling to move on, or that are blocked. And I think it's really, really important that you're gentle with yourself within this, because those connections, or whatever you're moving on from, at some point in your life, it was very important to you, and it was very present, and maybe it filled your life very beautifully, and maybe it was something you prayed for, maybe it was something you wanted. And so it's going to take time, and it may be difficult at times, but you're going to get through this. I do see that here in the cards, and you're going to come out a lot stronger and a lot more centered in yourself, which is actually incredibly beautiful. So this is what I have for you, Sagittarius. I hope that it helps. I hope that it resonates, and I'll see you next time.